Some of you might remember this video from a while back. This is a theory craft that I made for a Odyssey class flight deck carriers, my dream ship, something I would absolutely love to see introduced into Star Trek Online because I loved the Odyssey class and I love flight deck carriers because flight deck carriers are cool. This was meant to be something that would synergize really well with my Odyssey Summoner build, but would also do really well just as a general performance build and as something that would also do well with other traditional pet builds that are more focused around fighter pets than just summoning and Odysseys as well. And while I'm fairly happy with how this came out, and with the theory craft that I made for it, I've been wanting to do some fine tuning and some small changes to it just to make it fit a bit more with the theme I have in mind. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be updating my Dream Odyssey flight deck carrier. So the first step with that meant going back to the drawing board, or rather the spreadsheet, to go back and look at the other versions of flight deck carriers and previous versions of the Odyssey and try to, come up with some stats. And honestly, there weren't a lot of significant changes made to it. Like a lot of the base movement and hull and shield stats remained the same. But the biggest change I did with this is I wanted to make it into a command ship. And the reason for that is I feel like command synergizes with pet support builds a lot better than Miracle Worker. Really, the main reason I wanted Miracle Worker on the original state of the build is because Miracle Worker gets the extra trait slot, and it also has some decent support for energy weapon builds, but overall, it's not the most thematic in my opinion for what I'm trying to go for here. I feel like Command really was the better option here, so that's what I'm adjusting for now. So obviously that meant adjusting the power bonuses, which I would still love to keep at +10 to weapons and aux. Those are the best options there because if you're going to running an energy weapon build, obviously you want more weapon power, but you want some aux power there too to better support the hangar bays, because the more aux power you have, the lower the cooldowns on your hangar bay launch times. So I wanted to keep some decent power to aux there, but I also want to keep some weapon power there too, just because weapon power is always good to have. Some engine power would be kind of nice too, because being a flight deck carrier, it's going to be a fairly large, fairly slow ship. So some engine power would be kind of nice, but I didn't want to, throw too much of that. I didn't want to split it up too much. I could maybe bring this down to +5 for weapons, and then do +5 for for +5 for engines as well. Maybe that could work. Yeah, something like that. Honestly, that's not bad either, but then I feel like it's a little too aux heavy. So yeah, maybe the other way is the better option to go for there. Yeah, I kind of like this better. On the original theory craft, I did leave this as a 5-3 weapons layout just because 5-3 is, for the most part, better for everything. I know people still fighting me on that. Oh, but I like broadsiding better, so 4-4 is better. 5-3 is still better for broadsiding. I don't know why people keep fighting me on that. But I get the vibe, 4-4. You would think 4-4 would be better for broadsiding, and I think it should be. This is another thing I've been wanting to do a video on, is ways to make 4-4 layouts better for broadsiding, because right now 5-3 is still better because your ship actually has to move forward, so you're still going to be using your forward weapons most of the time. And I've been wanting to come up with ideas to make 4-4 more just suck less. So if more stuff like that could be implemented, I could be talked into making this into a 4-4 as well. But as the game is in its current state, 5-3 is still best for everything. Now, in the original Theorycraft video, I had this as only having 4 total bridge officer seats. That way it could have a Lieutenant Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Commander Science, and Lieutenant Commander Universal, and a Commander level Engineering seat. And I don't know, part of me thought that was kind of a big ask to make, but I'm still kind of wishing I could still go in that route, because only 4 seats on a ship, it's not a common thing you see. They did it on, actually there's one here on this list, they did it on the support carriers. Now this one I'd use the Atrox as the example ship, because it's technically the Federation ship because it's the Cation ship, but they also did that on the Ronadair, the Vodevil, and the Jem'Hadar version. Yeah, they did that on that. They also did that on the Excelsior 2 and the Temporal Light Cruiser, which aren't flight deck carriers, so they're not on this list. So yeah, it's been done before. It's just I would love to do it again, mostly just so I could fit a Lieutenant Commander Science seat on here and then have room for gravity well on here, which is always a useful control ability to have. Plus, it's one more unconventional systems trigger that I could fit on here. But I felt like it was too big of an ask, so I swapped that down to lieutenant and then added an ensign universal seat on there, which I talked about in the last video too. I thought, oh, that could be an option, and I've decided to implement it here. But the more I'm looking at it, the more I really wish I could have that lieutenant commander science seat, because gravity well. But yeah, that's the thing with these theory craft builds. I never really know like what is acceptable to Cryptic, or in this case now Deca, because I never know like what the ship designers would consider to be too overpowered for what types of ships. It's just, it all seems to be done kind of on the fly. There's no, especially these days now that everything is full spec, everything is has 2 spec seats, everything is just got some mix of whatever. So it's like the power creep's gotten so crazy. It's just like, what are the parameters for each type of ship? There's so, I don't know, it's hard to tell these days. But yeah, everything else remained pretty much the same. Consoles, obviously the consoles had to lose the universal seat on there because it's no longer America worker ship, but the specialization, or the specializations for each ones stayed the same. So 5 engineering, 3 tac, 3 psi, 2 hangar bays, flight deck carrier, starship mastery. Spec seating changed to command pilot. It's full spec, no really special abilities, because the command ships don't really have anything special beyond the inspiration mechanic. So there's no point in, it's not going to have like a spinal lance. It's not going to have a cloaking device or anything like that. It doesn't need it. Though with that said, I would love for it to have the wingman mechanic, but that's something I'll talk about a little further into the video, which also, that's something I brought up in the last video too, but we'll bring it up again. So with all these changes implemented, the build that I would end up running on this ship ends up looking a bit more like this. So like I said, it's a command ship now, so we're losing that universal slot, but we are gaining the access to some command abilities. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to change this to a command ship, because I feel like command seating synergizes much better with the ability to wanting to use pets. Also, I just realized I am in the way now. Let's get me out of here. There we go. But yeah, it would look a lot like this. So I'm still keeping a lot of the same abilities I was using before. The reason I want a pilot seat on this thing entirely is so I can use deploy countermeasures and to be able to use reinforcement squadrons. Those are 2 abilities I would love to be able to use more often on a ship like this, because they summon in more pets. Typically, pilot seating is always reserved for small, nimble ships, because I get the vibe that's they're pilot ships. They're meant to be for small or fast ships, but I feel like there's so much utility there for summon stuff because of these 2 abilities there. It's a shame not to do it on something like this. Like, there are no carriers, flight deck or otherwise, that have a pilot seat on them. So it's something I've always wanted to see, but it has never been done. In fact, that was like one of the main inspirations why I made the first version of this theory craft, is because I want an Odyssey with a pilot seat on it, because I want to be able to use diversionary tactics on it, so I could, because that creates holographic decoys of your ship, so it's more Odysseys to summon for the build, for my Odyssey summoner build. So that's one of the reasons why I want that, and because I've always wanted a carrier build that could run reinforcement squadrons, because that's more fighter pets for the build. So it's 2 things I've always wanted, and why not put it on my favorite ship? But yeah, the main reason we're talking about this here is because of the command seat, and because there are 2 abilities here that I feel like really lend itself to the theme of pets for a carrier build like this. For one, you get call emergency artillery, which, I mean, they don't function like traditional pets, but you're basically firing off 3 Defiant class ships at an enemy. So it's kind of like you're calling in reinforcements in the form of Defiants, and they do a little strafing run, then they go away. It's not quite as powerful as it used to be, and I know there are some people that think it should function differently, like they want them to function like actual pets, but I don't really care about that. I'm just glad that they summon in actual ships, and then they do their thing, and then they leave. And I would love to be able to do that on like a full-fledged carrier like this, because that's just fun. I like that. And there are other carriers with command seating, like there are plenty of them. It's just like, I want to do it on an Odyssey. So there's that. The other big reason why I wanted to switch this over to a command ship is this ability, Needs of the Many. And what this does is it sacrifices some of your own shield power and then applies it as temporary hull heals on any pets within 10 kilometers of you, which on its own is not very powerful. It's actually not a great ability on its own. But when you pair it with flagship staffing, then you get some really interesting stuff, because all of that stuff counts as a heal So that will trigger flagship staffing, and that way you can get that haste buff for flagship staffing onto a lot of pets that are nearby you all at once really quickly and easily. On the Miracle Worker version of this build, I would have done that with something like Aligned Shield Frequencies, but Aligned Shield Frequencies has a much smaller AoE, only having, I think, 4 or 5 kilometers, I forget which, but yeah, it has a much smaller range than Needs of the Many here. This is going to be a much more effective ability for triggering flagship staffing, which will then in turn trigger all of your fighter pets or all of your summon pets, anything like that. So it functions much better with the build. Though if you're not wanting to go the pet summoner route, I still think Command offers a lot of utility here. You can use Suppression Barrage to debuff enemies. There's some decent survivabilities in here. I've done a whole video going over the advantages of command ships. Command ships also have the best starship ship mechanic, the Inspiration mechanic there, which provides some really great buffs to damage and healing. So just Command all around, I feel like, is the better option to go for here, just to fit the whole vibe of being a flagship, summoning in different ships to help you aid in combat, whether they be small fighter pets or summonable other starships to fight alongside you. Just Command fits the vibe better. Now, I didn't always think that, though, obviously, because, I mean, the first version of this build was on a Miracle Worker ship, so that's one thing, because Miracle Worker has the extra console slot, which is always helpful. Plus, with the Miracle Worker ship mechanic, you have the chance to use the Barclay maneuver, which you could count as one more Odyssey, because, you know, it just sends a holographic duplicate of your ship colliding with another ship, so you could count that as that, but it's, you know, the RNG factor of it is just annoying. But more than that, when I actually started working on this update for this build, I was actually pretty dead set originally for this to end up being an Intel ship instead of Miracle Worker. Because one, Intel has much better support for unconventional systems triggers, which unconventional systems always good, always, you know, for lowering the cooldowns of your universal consoles, which this is very heavy in universal consoles. So getting those cooldowns lower would actually be really beneficial for this build. But it's, at the same time, it's just, I didn't think Intel vibed that well with the theme here, because it's, you know, Intel is meant to be sneaky, stealthy. You're supposed to, you know, sneak around and then you deliver some sort of devastating strike with something like surgical strikes, and that's not something I wanted to do here. I wanted this to be big and loud and constantly shouting at other ships to summon in to help with combat. That's the vibe here. I mean, we're not going for stealth here. We're going for big and loud, which is exactly what I do every single day of my life. Anyway, jokes aside, I feel like you get what I mean here, because like with Intel, like it would have been the smarter choice in terms of the DPS meta. You get, you know, better uncon trigger access, you get like OSS, you get surgical strikes if you like going that route, but then that like takes up your entire commander engineering spot, or engineering seat, because like while normally engineering seating isn't that amazing, but there are some abilities in here that fit the theme of the summoner build, like the recently added mission scout ship mission ability, or bridge officer ability, as well as something like construction shuttle wing, where, you know, which is a decent, it's not a decent, it's an okay heal, but it fits thematically because it deploys a bunch of little worker bee shuttles that will repair your ship. And then there's the, you know, with the other one, it's, you know, it summons in some mission scout ships that will fight alongside you, and that's fun for the theme of the build, because pets is the name of the game with the thinking of this ship. But at the same time, with Command, you don't have to go that route. Command is pretty well-rounded enough that you can do mostly whatever you want on it. You know, you can go, it's really ideal for like that mixed DPS tank route too, so you could go that route instead if you don't want to feed into the whole summoner idea, but you still have good access to, you know, stuff like, you know, because it's the flight deck carrier, you still have good access to pet stuff if you wanted to go that route. You just don't have to lead super heavy into that route, is what I'm saying. Whereas with Intel, it's much more single-minded. It has very little support for other ships that are around you, whether they be pets or actual, you know, allied ships. It's not going to feed into the theme as well. So I feel like Command is the way to go here. But yeah, there really isn't that much else to say here. Like, I've got this note section, but we've kind of gone over a decent amount of this, or there's really just no need to go into it. Like, you know, it's stuff that was gone over in the last video too, like the number of Odysseys that I could potentially summon with this setup. I was wanting to switch over to Command for better optimization for pets, being able to use stuff like flagship staffing or other bridge officer abilities. Like other stuff that helps out with pets is like rally point or concentrate firepower. Those are both decent for pets as well. And as I just said, would still love to go with 4 total bridge officer seats just for the sake of being able to get gravity well on there. Just, it seemed like too big of an ask, but You know what? I would still rather prefer it. I don't know what the lines are for the ship designers. Like what do they consider to be too OP? Because with the power creep that's we've been getting for over the years, it's just like I don't know where to draw certain lines with some things. So it's just like, yeah, this would be good, but this would be better, and I would love to be able to trade this ensign seat here just for the sake of being able to get Grevwell onto the build. Oh, and well, with these last 2 points, like I said earlier, like I could be talked into this, changing this to a 4-4 layout. Because again, like I said just before, I don't know what the lines are for the ship designers. It would 5-3 be too much on this thing, but at the same time, if this is going to be a 4-4, we need better support for broadside builds. And like this every time I bring up the 4-4 5-3 thing, like people always say, well, 4-4 is better for broadsiders. It's not. It should be. I agree with you there. It should be better for broadside builds. You would think it would be, but it's not. But I would love for it to be, and that's something I want to do. Is to do a video to like brainstorm ideas in order to make 4-4 more ideal for actual broadsiders. Because as it is, it's just it doesn't function like that in game. Because like I said, your ship still has to move forward, so you're still using those forward facing weapons more often than you're using the aft ones. But yeah, that's a discussion for another video. I'm just saying here, like, yeah, as of recording this, I would still prefer this to be a 5-3 build. But if you're gonna make this a 4-4 build, I would be open for it. But we need better support for broadside builds. And the last thing, this is something I brought up in the last video, and I think earlier in this video, Jem'Hadar wingmen. This is another one I do want to do a video on, because the wingman mechanic, in my opinion, is the most fun ship mechanic in Star Trek Online. I really enjoy that mechanic, and I really hate that it is restricted to Jem'Hadar Vanguard ships, especially because, I mean, with the current state of the game and the current state of the show in general, like with the Star Trek franchise, we're clearly not getting any new Jem'Hadar ships anytime soon, if ever again. So it sucks to not be able to use Star Trek's most fun ship mechanic over something as trivial as not having access to more Jem'Hadar ships. It's so stupid to keep it restricted like that. So why not spread it out a little bit? They've already done it once with the Rex, which is an Alliance ship. So why not do that more? I'm not saying put it on a bunch of ships. Obviously still keep it somewhat rare. It's just loosen up a little bit on it. And ideally, I would love to see a version of each faction's flagship with a wingman mechanic. So an Odyssey with the wingman mechanic, a Bortosk with the wingman mechanic, the Scimitar technically, though I still stand by my opinion that the Hapax would have been a better flagship than the Scimitar. But yeah, Romulan ship, whether it be a Scimitar or otherwise, with wingmen, and of course, the Jem'Hadar ship, we already got that, but you know what I mean. I don't know, it would be cool to see that on this ship, because again, that would just be more pets for it, because the wingmen are pets, the whole theme here is pets, so more pets, why not? In the original video, I also went to the trouble of coming up with a console and trait idea, which is not something I normally do with these Theorycraft videos, but I wanted to go all out for this one. And really, the theme here was pretty simple. It was summoning more Odysseys here, so the console idea was pretty simple. And I haven't really changed my mind on any of these at all. I mean, we could adjust these stats any way you want, because I feel like, honestly, I kind of aimed low for these, because I wanted to, because again, I don't know what the line is for the game's ships designers or console designers in this case. It's just I don't know what they consider to be OP and a good mid ground, because there's such a wide range of consoles and Star Trek traits in the game. It's so hard to nail down what they would deem as acceptable, because the bar is just all over the place. So yeah, so for a console in this, I haven't really changed my mind. Is I wanted to summon an Odyssey. I want that Odyssey to be able to do some damage, but also help support the other summons that you bring in here. And with the Starship trait, again, just the fire at will extension trait that we all need and deserve at this point, because seriously, it's ridiculous that we are still relying on something as dumb as entwined tactical matrices to extend fire at will, when cannons still have withering barrage that can just keep going and then not have to worry about having to use anything else. Literally every other firing mode is able to do something like that with a starship trait, and yet Fire at Will is the only exception, and it is so stupid and annoying, and I hate it. And sorry, we're going into another topic again already. This is probably something that should also be another video, but yeah, you get what I mean. But yeah, this is the update to my theory craft for my dream ship, the Odyssey Command Flight Deck Carrier. I feel like this is a much better direction for this kind of ship to go in. Let me know what you guys think down below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you'd like to further support the channel, hit the join button, become a member, check out the merch store, check out the affiliate links in the pinned comment. If you're ever shopping on the Epic Game Store, be sure to use my content creator code STU1701. Any of these really help me out, and I really do appreciate it. Either way, though, my name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.